foreign and international wrath. Of course, not surprising the Iranians mad, but the European Union mad. The French are upset. The British are upset. The Italians are upset. When I heard the Italians are upset, I said, game over. With us here with a read on all of this is the former aide to Maggie Thatcher, Nile Gardiner. Now, what do you make of this? Of course, Europe, of course, furious, apoplectic at this president. Many of them saying, oddly enough, what the Iran's foreign minister was saying, the U.S. cannot be trusted now, signing on to a deal that a future president can just sort of tear up out of whim. What do you make of that?
Well, we've certainly seen a huge sort of collective whine from the European Union, and particularly from the French and the Germans, actually, over the weekend, complaining about President Trump's decertification of the Iran deal. This, of course, was completely expected. The European Union has a lot at stake here. Firstly, of course, the Iran deal is about sort of global power projection for the European Union. Secondly, there's also a lot of money at stake. You have huge financial deals being negotiated with European companies, together with the Iranian regime. The Total oil deal, for example, to exploit Iran's gas fields, that's worth about $5 billion. And so there's much at stake here for European countries in terms of the financial losses. If indeed US sanctions are reimposed against the United States, those sanctions would directly target European companies. So it's only to be expected that you're going to have the the EU and the big European Union players actually fighting ferociously to keep this deal in place.
All right, if you think about it, France's leader Macron was not even part of that Iranian nuclear agreement, but wanted to honor what a prior government had committed to. I'm just wondering now how that changes going forward. What do you think?
Yeah, Macron is still committed to the deal, although he's expressed some, I think, criticism of aspects of the deal. Right. And I think the interesting thing here is that if the United States goes ahead and reimposes sanctions against Iran, which I think Congress should do, effectively that takes the United States out of the Iran nuclear deal. But what are the Europeans going to do about it, actually? I think that eventually the Europeans will just have to accept any US decision, as they have done over the Paris Climate Accord. This is not going to break the transatlantic alliance. I think the US concerns over the deal are very, very deep-rooted. They are far stronger than the concerns of the Europeans. But a US break from the deal, which could be the end result, is not going to fundamentally alter the trajectory of US-European relations. And at the end of the day, Europe needs the United States on so many levels, not least, of course, to defend Europe against threats posed by places such as Iran and also by the Russians as well. So I don't think that this is going to, hugely damage US-European relations in the long run, despite all the bitter complaining coming from European capitals.
I'm wondering, too, what is the political climate in Europe these days? The reason why I ask is this 31-year-old who just ended up becoming Austria's new leader. He's part of this so-called New Right movement that espouses more of the look out for ourselves over the fortunes of Europe. And as such, he's Europe's youngest leader. But he's not in keeping with the tone we get out of a lot of European governments these days, save the fact that he is not establishment, that's for sure. What do you make of that?
Yeah, no, that's right. A big development in Austria over the weekend. The new Chancellor, Sebastian Kurz, who has been the foreign minister of the country, only 31 years old, leading a conservative party, the Conservative People's Party, which is very, very hard line on immigration issues. In fact, immigration, the refugee crisis, was the dominant single factor in the Austrian elections. And this was an emphatic rejection, of course, of Angela Merkel's open door policy, which has allowed in up to 2 million migrants from from the Middle East and Africa into Germany. Many of those migrants have actually found their way into Austria as well. And so a huge issue. And so what we are seeing, I think, is a rejection in Austria and many European countries, I think, of the old sort of political establishment, a rejection of the open borders approach. And certainly Mr. Kurz is more similar to some of the leaders you find in Eastern Europe, especially in Poland and Hungary, leaders who have strongly rejected Angela Merkel's approach on the refugee crisis.
So the far-right problems in places like France is not an indication of what's happening across Europe because of this guy's victory, right?
Yeah, I think actually, Sebastian Kurz is pretty mainstream in Austria. The fact is that there's overwhelming opposition in Austria and many European countries to policies of mass migration, right, which are fundamentally altering European societies and also causing significant security risks as well.
All right, Nile, thank you very much. Nile Gardiner, a former aide to Margaret Thatcher. A lot of people refer to some of these new emerging candidates, including Sebastian Kurz, as a sign of the future Maggie Thatchers out there. Way too early to say, but we'll look